Hello. Long time no see. It has been a year and a month since the last time I made a knitting podcast, or a crafting podcast, I suppose. And I've really missed doing it, and I've been feeling recently very inspired by my friends' podcasts, and wanted to just make one for the first time in a really long time. And so, hi Natasha, hi B. Thank you for continuing to inspire me with your crafts. Yeah, it has been a while, and a lot of stuff happens in a year. I don't feel like I'm gonna try and catch up on everything, but I do have a lot of things that I've made that I want to share and talk about. And also, I kind of want to be honest about the fact that part of what has kept me from making a podcast is that I was on testosterone for about a year, and it really had a big impact on how I felt like I had not a very good sense of how I looked and if I liked the way that I looked, and my skin was also blowing up. And I felt really quite self-conscious about it and did not want to put myself on camera. And my skin is still kind of on the rebound from having been on testosterone. And it's really been, as I was trying to figure out what's been making me procrastinate doing this so much, it's no, you are really upset about the way that your skin looks. And so I just kind of wanted to be honest about that. That's been an obstacle for me. I'm happy to say that I'm starting to get back to this skin that I feel good in. And yeah. I also have always been curious. I didn't do any tracking of my voice necessarily in the process of being on testosterone, and I did kind of rewatch my last episode a little bit just to see which things I've been working on back then, and I think that my voice is sounding different now, which is interesting because that was one of the things that I was hoping would change and would stay, that I would keep it if when I went off testosterone. So kind of cool. Yeah, I have so many things that I have made. I have a lot of things also that I'm currently making. I actually made a list. I'm hoping to finally be moving this summer, and there's part of me that really wants to, kind of in a spring cleaning way, get through all of my in-progress things, not just knitting, but other craft projects. There's certain things that I have accumulated because I've had the space to and stuff, and a lot of those things I'm just ready to finish. So I made this big list of things that I have in progress, mending things that I want to do, some things that I would like to start and finish before I move. And I probably won't get all of it done, but it has been nice to start not even to start crossing stuff off, but just to kind of have an inventory of things that I've started that maybe I've forgotten about, to try and remember the reason why I started working on them, or even in some cases think about do I even want to finish this project, or is it not important enough feeling for me. And I've felt myself withdrawing a bit from, I guess that's not entirely true, but I did experience a kind of coming out of winter depression spell. There's also just a massive amount of grief and hardship in the world, and I think that has just been really heavily impacting me. And so there were times where I wasn't really finding joy in craft. I wanted it to be a refuge, and it just wasn't doing that for me. But I also was at times doing other things, like reading and playing video games and stuff, in ways that I felt were actually kind of more nourishing. But I'm I just finished a project, and I think that, like, that's what I need. I think I need to start finishing things, and that also, like, makes me excited and gives me more space to work on new stuff. So, yes. I think I'm just going to go through all of the things that I have finished. It was cool to see that there were some things that I was either, like, partway done with or just starting in my last episode that are, like, completely finished now. Those are kind of on the bottom of the pile. I'm just going to go through things that I made. I went to Rhinebeck last year with my very best knitting friends. We're going again this year. I got some fiber from Into the World there and spun it up and made this Mooncrush. So here it is. I really like this one. My original test for Jacqui I made in like a cotton and linen, and this I always wanted to make a wool one and use hand spun, and so that's what this is. And I also sized up. I'm trying to remember. I think I made either size 1 or 2 for my original one, and it's like a very like cropped summer top, which is great. And this one's a size 3, so it's quite a bit of positive ease on me, which is great because I can wear it over dresses and stuff. And I tend to always wear it with this in the front, but I just love this pattern. I think it's so beautiful. This reminds me a lot of like planets, sort of like Jupiter especially, but also maybe Saturn. And it's Falkland. It is a bit crunchier than I typically experience with a Falkland, but the colorway is Herding Cats, I believe. So that was fun. A little tight on yarn on that one. And it was the first time with this hand spun, which was really cool, where I didn't fully finish the yarn before I started knitting with it. So at one point I had fiber, singles, plied yarn, and like knitted yarn all next to each other, and it was just really interesting to see the way that the colors played out in that. I had talked in the last video about making just a very simple top out of this like very froggy yarn and putting a frog patch on it, and here it is. I just used the color Quadrant Crop by James and Watts pattern and just made it all in one color. It's looking a little washed out here, but this is a very true froggy swampy green. I really like this. It's called like Merino Textura, and it's this combination of superwash and non-superwash merino. It has this very like, you can kind of see this like very like slubby kind of look to it, and it's fulled actually quite a lot more than I would expect given how much superwash it has in it. And I love it. I wear this all the time. I think that the actual base pattern of the Quadrant Crop fits really well. I wish I could remember which size I made. This might be a medium. I think I made the small for my test, which I still wear a lot. And I would love to make another Intarsia one because I just think it's a great pattern. And I added this frog patch, which it still kind of has a fold in it. I just like machine sewed it on and then just trimmed around the edge. It was a square patch, but I love this. I wear it really often. I love having like a knit t-shirt. It's just pretty great. This behemoth is finally finished. It is quite worn at this point. I'm trying to remember when exactly I finished it. I want to say it was like, I think it was in 2024. I want to say maybe February or so. But my partner has worn this quite a lot. But here it is. It's so huge. There are no cables on the back, thank God. I did not actually end up alternating skeins with this. They said they didn't mind the kind of like striping effect that it gave. I find, does it show up on here? I feel like you can see the the breaks between skeins. It doesn't have dye lots. Kind of frustrating, but whatever. I did mess up on one of these sleeves where one of them's wider than the other. I like messed up my decreases somewhere. I think that the construction on this pattern is clever. You knit bottom up and then you work the front and back and then you do this, how clearly does this show? This like saddle shoulder cable that then feeds down, and then you do like a drop sleeve. However, I had been working on this sweater for a very long time, and I found that I was really sick of it by the time I had to redo the cuffs as well. And so I was so sick of making it with this by the time I got to the sleeves. And it is on like a looser gauge, but it is still a fingering weight. It's meant to be held with like a strand of mohair or suri, something fluffy. I kind of like the texture that it has without that. I still feel very proud of it, but like I was so sick and tired of making this. But I think I made maybe size 5. I want to say it's like the 47-inch circumference. Like I don't think it's a bad pattern. It's Delphinus by Aurelie Tixier. It is in a pom-pom, but I don't remember which one. I think one of the winter issues. And yeah, it is, when I dyed my hair recently, I was like, it is the same color as this sweater. I did not intend to go for like a pink, but that is kind of what I got, and it's also washed out a bit. I'm going to put some purple over it. And my tails are gone since my last one. I ut those off because they'd gotten really thin. Like anytime I cut my hair, I would lose them a little bit. They used to be so much more like lush and full. And so I think back in like December, I was like, it's time, end of an era. And I think I also still had like my mohawk situation, which my partner actually has now. And this I think I had said I was almost done with the sleeve. I have long arms, so I wasn't actually as close as I thought. This is my Koyamae. Still no one could say. How do we say the name of this sweater? I made it into a cardigan. I'm so proud of it. I wear this a lot. I think more than I expected to. I did the button bands. It was finished for quite some time, except for the button bands, and I believe I did these like at our Rhinebeck house, and then wore it to the second day of the festival, which was really sweet. I love this sweater so much. It's also reminded me, because I don't know that I've ever knit a cardigan for myself. No, that's not true. The first sweater I ever knit was a cardigan. However, my skin was not happy with the wool that I used, and so I gave it away to a friend. No, I've made other cardigans too, but I haven't liked them, I guess is maybe what it is. But I always wore so many cardigans in high school and in college, and so like having one that I made, I find that I wear it a lot. It is very warm, and because I have a slight kind of bell sleeve happening here, which I think is really pretty, but it doesn't always fit super well under like, when it was cold enough I needed like a winter jacket. It was like a little bulky because it is like a worsted weight yarn. But God, it's so pretty. I'm in love with this. The sleeves are amazing. I ended up doing everything about this pattern I did a little bit different, not least making it into a cardigan in the first place. But I decided to do like a little rolled cuff. I think I made it so that there were more, my stitch count was off on the sleeves somehow, so I ended up doing like more decreases. There's just like some little things that I did differently. I kind of wish I'd taken better notes because people have asked me like how I made it into a cardigan. It was a lot of just like puzzling through the short rows. The short rows were the most challenging part, to figure out how to do them flat, but I love it. I wear it so much, and it does, because the sleeves are so heavy, it has this tendency to kind of fall off one shoulder. I don't dislike, but it just means that in certain contexts I don't want to wear it so much, plus the sleeve being kind of big and wide. Thankfully, I can push it up, and the cuff is narrow enough that it'll like stay up over my elbow if I need to like do dishes or something. So we love that. I thought about actually doing buttons, but I couldn't find any that felt like they were like nice enough. I felt like anything would be like taking attention away from the sweater. I just couldn't find the right buttons. Oh yeah, I'm wearing a sweater that I made, and I wore it specifically because I've had it for a long time. I meant to look it up when exactly I made this, but it's either 2017 or 2018. It's actually, I think at this point, one of the oldest knits that I have, and I wear it really often. I kind of don't think about the fact that, I don't know, it's been with me for so long that sometimes I like don't even think of it as something to talk about. But this is, oh, I don't know the designer's name, but it's called Rio, the pattern is, and it has caliper cables, which basically what you do is you add like a second wrap in a stitch, and then that becomes this long loop that you cable over. And so it has these panels down the front and down the sleeve, and then there's like a little one that goes across the back. And I made it in Pearl Soho Cotton Pure, the old line, and I think it was like they were discontinuing the color when I bought it, when I lived in New York. It's been through the wash a lot of times. It has like a lot of, it's not showing the best because the camera is in the right spot, but it has like a lot of kind of swing and drape to it, which makes it very comfortable, and like I really like layering this one. And because it's cotton, it's like very versatile. I wanted to make one in wool, but I think I would want it, knowing how much I like the drape on this, maybe like a wool silk or like a wool alpaca or something, so it has some of that drape. I tend to wear it cuffed twice. I find that I really like kind of like a bracelet length sleeve, but not if that's the only length it can be. I'm finding I'm kind of inclined to make a longer sleeve and then cuff it, which has been interesting because, yeah, there have been some sweaters where I'm like, the sleeve is too short on this, but then even when it's long enough, I often bring it to that length, so it's kind of silly. But yeah, I really love this sweater, and I really love that it's been with me for so long, and that this color has had a place in my wardrobe for so long. But yeah, I almost forgot to talk about that one. Speaking of sleeves, this pile's almost through. We're almost done. This is the Waterbender test that I was about to start in my last podcast, and it's done. And it took quite a long time to do. I think I finished, I don't think I made the deadline, but I wasn't off by much. I think maybe a week or two. It's partly just because the sleeve is so wide, and it's not just straightforward brioche. You're doing these like increase-decrease patterns. It's so beautiful. It's quite light, actually. However, I've learned something about myself by making this sweater, which is that I don't actually like wide sleeves very much at all. And having wide sleeves means that I wear it very infrequently. The sleeves are also a little bit long. That's kind of the look So I tried to make mine like that, but I find that I just don't wear it. And it's such a waste because, like, this is Noro, the blue is, and it's beautiful. I really, really love, I think I messed mine up a little bit in one spot, but along, let's see, how well does that show? Can I hold it up and show it at the same time? Maybe. This raglan, there's like a tiny little like leaf motif that's in there. I think it's really lovely and pretty. Is it easier to see on the other side? No. So I have a plan for this. Don't listen. I had mentioned frogging it. I'm not going to fully frog it. But what I think I'm going to do, because I have a decent amount of leftover yarn actually, what I think I'm going to try and do is take the sleeves and unravel them maybe to halfway up my arm. So all of this will go away. And the body on this is a touch short on me. I was kind of worried about being able to finish the sleeves, so I opted for something on the shorter side, which also makes it so it's not as wearable. And then I think what I'm going to do is try to lengthen the body to at least like a tunic length. If not, and if I have enough yarn, I might try to go for like a dress length. The only slight concern that I have is that the purple yarn is like, well, we can't see that very well, can we? The purple yarn is, that didn't focus at all either. It's fulled some. It's merino lace from Malabrigo, like a single ply merino. It's pilled, or not pilled, but it has fulled for sure. And I'm just curious if there will be like an obvious difference between the new knitting and the old knitting. I assume with time it would also kind of just like work itself out. But yeah, I know with that doubles, and then this like beautiful Noro that has, wow, it doesn't wanna, you can see there's like all these gorgeous little specks, and I thought it would be like nice and watery, you know? So I think that that's kind of my compromise too. Like, I don't want to undo all of it. It was a lot of work, and it's beautiful. I just want to find a way to make it something that I wear more often. I also found that I was really hoping this would be like a super kind of squishy, warm sweater I would wear a lot over the winter because of the brioche. But I actually found the neck on it to be it actually sits very similarly to this, which is just like too wide where like my neck would still be kind of cold. So there's that, and then there's just two more finished things. That's it. Which way does this go? This is my Rhinebeck sweater. Oh, it has a turtleneck. That turtleneck, that was like, I think I calculated, it's like 4,000 stitches. Worth it. I love that it's a turtleneck, even though it was a total pain because I knit pretty much all my rib now with twisted pearls. So it takes longer, but it creates like a really nice definition between the knit and the purl stitches when you twist your pearls. So this is the partner pullover. I did squiggles, as you can see. And the rainbow yarn is my hand spun. I have some left, and this is, can you see that really well? No, please focus. No dice. Well, you can see all the colors, even if they're blurry. And this is a mixed BFL from Nest Fibers in slow motion, and it's very rainbowy and pretty. It ended up coming through with like a little bit more of yellow and pink than I had expected, and I was a little worried that I wasn't going to get enough of the blues that I like really love in this, but I think it turned out so beautifully. I am a hater of bottom-up sweaters, generally speaking, and this is bottom-up. And there was a point in the sleeve join where I was not having a good time. But it fits really, really well. Like, this is probably one of the best fitting sweaters I've ever made. Lydia Morrow's patterns are complex. They are thick. They cost more money than other patterns, but I do think that the quality and the attention to detail is really there. It does make a difference. I knit this with Juniper Moon, Patagonia Organic Merino is, I think, the wool. Really liked it. Nice woolen 2-ply yarn. But I don't think... I discovered recently that Juniper Moon uses Israeli cotton in a number of their yarns, and so until further notice, I am not knitting with that brand. Basically until they stop sourcing from Israel. Which is a bummer, because this is a really nice yarn and it comes in really lovely colors. So, yes. But I love this. It is very warm because it's like it's full color work. So, all of these floats in here, they're keeping me warm. But God, I love it a lot. I am getting some pilling, which I've been kind of bummed about, mostly from the hand spun. It's a little surprising because it's BFL, but yeah, I love this sweater very, very much. I also put the time into doing long, not even long, but just like as written rib, even though I very much dislike rib. Did all the rib on the turtleneck. I'm really happy with this one. And it feels very much like my colors. And then, last but not least, this was a test knit. I just finished a couple days ago and just took pictures of yesterday, which I will post once the release happens. This is Armour Top by rantistudio. And it looks really funny right now because it is a rib top. And so it's like doing the shrinky skinny thing. But the main like design feature on this is this double knit armband, which one thing I really like about this sweater, and I was kind of hoping it would do this, is that like it almost acts like a shoulder pad kind of thing, where like it has like a broadening effect on my shoulders, which I really like. I originally signed up to do the long sleeve and then did kind of like a half sleeve in the hopes that I would be able to wear it like in warmer weather. Relatively cropped body. You will be able to see what it looks like on a person when I post those photos. And I knit with a marled like fingering weight and lace weight, and I'm really happy with the colors that I got. I actually bought yarn for this and then returned it because I realized I could pull something from what I already had. And yeah, I love the color. I will be honest about this. I really disliked knitting this. I don't know if it's just because it's a lot of rib, which I just said I don't really like doing. In that case, I probably shouldn't have signed up, which I told the designer. I'm like, maybe that wasn't the best choice on my part. There's just a number of things about the pattern that that made it sometimes confusing, sometimes a bit unclear. A lot of times I just felt like I was missing something, even though the actual knitting is quite straightforward. There is no neck shaping, and I found the short rows on the sleeves to be a little bit difficult to get through, but I am hopeful that either in the, like before the release, that some edits get made, or maybe like an updated version in the future. I also realized towards the end of knitting this that I was really after it for like the final product. I really wanted to have this top, but I wasn't really enjoying the process of making it. And some knits are just like that. I'm like, I want a thing that looks like this, but yeah. And I felt bummed because a lot of the people in the test chat were so excited about theirs and having like such a great time making it. I just felt I really couldn't relate. I was not having a good time with it. And I think also that was when I was like feeling a lot more depressed too, which didn't help. So, but it's done, you know? It's here. And that's my like big pile of knits that I can think of that I wanted to share. Look at all that. It's a lot of, wow. My colors too, especially when we take Tommy's sweater out. That is a pile of my colors right there. It's pretty considerable. A lot of stuff. And you know, there's a little bit of handspun too. This is also Into the World. This is Romney. I think the color is Hijinks. It's very, very pretty. Can I get it to focus at all whatsoever? Maybe. This is a new camera for me, and I'm still kind of learning how that works. It's also mirrored, so whenever I try to adjust something in frame, I sometimes go the opposite direction that I need to. I'm still trying to figure out my relationship with long wools, because I think I really like them sometimes, but then this feels so crunchy, and I have no idea what to make with it. It's like, I don't know, let's say a sport or a DK weight. It's a little bit more on the dense side because it's long wool, and I only have like 200 yards of it. And it's not something I really want next to my skin. So it's like, what do I do with this? It's just been hanging up on my pegboard. I have no idea. It's so pretty. And actually, I feel it's coming up a little more on the orange red, but there's actually a good bit of purple in here. Yeah, I just think it's really pretty. Aside from the handspun for my partner pullover, I haven't done that much spin. I've actually been out of spinning a bit. I think part of it has also just been like my hands have been really feeling it. I did do this, which looks very green. It is Charmant from Nest Fiber, spun together with some just like bright green fiber from Koyamae that Sweet Natasha sent me. And it was, I couldn't find I did one skein of just the Charmant with itself, and it was really interesting to see like what two strands of it looked like together versus one strand on its own. I should say I did pull most of the yellow and pink out of the Charmant, so it's mostly purple and green, my faves. It's also kind of hard to see this because it's kicked up. Only other handspun really I have to show for myself is this, which is from some Finn fiber I got at Rhinebeck. And this is my first, like, more than just like a couple of yards chain ply yarn. And I'm really, really happy with it. Trying to remember what I practiced. I think I just did some sampling and like found a way to be chain plying on wheel that feels really good and like is giving me consistent like long loops so that there's not so many kind of like obvious spots where the loops are. Just like a much more evenly textured. I'm gonna try. Can I get you to focus at all, camera? I'm begging. Nope. They said no, thank you. Maybe from further away. It also, this looks very yellowy, but it's not. It's green. If I put it next to something else, is that? No. So, I mean, it is a yellowy, springy green, for sure. And this is half the braid, and I still have to do the other half. And my intention is that I'm going to make this, it's called Dragoste, I think, and it's like a cool textured cowl from Ysolda Teague. And half a braid got me pretty much half the yardage I need, and I'm doing, chain ply, so it's a 3-ply so that the texture on this thing, it's a lot of like garter ridges and that kind of thing, so I wanted something really that was going to show off the texture. That's pretty much what I've been doing. Well, those are the things that I finished. A million whips. And I'm already a decent amount of time into this video. I can do it quickly. I can get through them because sewing whip. Because it's close. I am making a Woolfork tank. This is what I have so far. This is some Liberty fabric that I got very cheap when I worked at a Mood. French seams, thank you, Jacqui. I have seen people complain about French seams, but I kind of love them. As someone who hates seam finishing. This is mostly complete. All I have to do, I keep telling myself, I have to do the facings and the hem. That's it. The facings and the hem. It just involves a lot of pressing. I find that, like, I wish I liked sewing more, but I find I hate having to just use the iron all the time. I think it's part of it. And I feel like I understand knit fabrics better. But I did already make a mistake on this, which is that the pattern's written with bust darts. I meant to take those out. I also meant to make this longer than the other crop that I made this once before. I also am unsure. I think it is simply because I didn't do the bust darts. I just omitted them instead of recutting the pattern. So there's just this nice long front because the dart isn't pulling that up. So whatever. This is partly an accountability thing. I'm showing this so that I can finish it. Really cute little summer top. I'm also partly doing this to refresh myself on the pattern because I want to make multiple versions of the dress. I have, I was going to keep this under wraps, but maybe this will make me actually make sure I do it. These are sheets. These are bug sheets that I got at Target. They're 100% cotton and I want to make a Woolfork dress out of them. I'm hoping in time for my cousin's wedding. And I have some other sheets that I thrifted that I'm hoping to not be in my muslin because I feel like the patterns, but it'll be like the first dress version I make. This will be the second one. Very, very incredibly excited to have a bug dress. And I have, because it's a full set of sheets, I have enough that I think I'm also going to try and maybe make like a cute little pair of like half pants. But we'll see. Other whips. I'm gonna get this out because it's huge. This is, and it has a million yarns attached to it. In our sweet little queer knitting Discord, which if you're not in it and you want to be, that can happen. We started this Stephen West shawl make-along. Oh my gosh, here it is. It's huge. This is my longest needle. This is like my 60-inch needle, or 60-inch cable, and it's bunched up on that. This is huge, and I still have one more of this section and a border chevron thing. It is so pretty though. Fuck, look at this. Like, wow, so pretty. I was not originally going to make this because I didn't like the way that the pictures looked, but then I found my colors and did it in that, and wow, I really love it. It's like a wool mohair tweed yarn. And, oh yeah, this is the Aurora Cabin shawl by Stephen West. I think at this point I am somewhere between 600 and 700 stitches in a row. And if I do the chevron edging, it'll be over 1,000 stitches by the time I bind off. And it is an I-cord bind off. So this one is very much, it's like, I'm not going to want this over the summer. So I'm content to just kind of like slowly work away at it. Also right now, the needle tips I had to take off to use for another project. So it's just kind of mostly been stuffed into a bag while I work on more seasonal things, including, this is what I took the tips for, a little Jacqui Cieslak test knit, which is also kind of crammed on a needle. This is a shirt. It's just, once it gets blocked and it's free from this tiny needle, it will look more like one. This is Griddy, and very cute. It's like a little, I believe it will have like a drop shoulder sleeve kind of construction, little color work grid. I've been really, and I'm knitting it in a very woolly wool, despite the fact that the sample's done in silk, because it's what I found that I liked. I really like this green right now, this like springy new leaf green that looks just like horribly washed out on this camera. But I went to Salem for the first time with my friends Lane and G, and we went to the Fiber Witch Festival, which was cute. I didn't actually get these at the festival. I got them at the local yarn store there. I really wanted to get yarn at the festival. However, the non-superwash options were incredibly limited, and I didn't quite find... Oh, so this is what I did end up getting. Just tucked the green is from Sunflower Knit, and the brown is just some Brooklyn Tweed Arbor. But the green's naturally dyed, and I kind of like that they're both North American wools. Yeah, I actually, when I started this, I started it during a virtual knit night, and for the first time in like years, twisted my stitches and got like an inch into knitting before I realized that it was twisted. And then I started over and I actually did it again. But I caught it early enough to actually fix it. And in a way, like blessing in disguise, I realized that, so the sample for Griddy is done in silk, and that makes it such that like the edge doesn't really roll, even though it's all stockinette. But because I'm working with wool, I could tell that mine will roll, so I was able to do a folded edge instead. So it worked out, but I couldn't believe I twisted my stitches. I haven't done that in so long. I chalk it up to being distracted at night. And so I'm working away on that. Yeah, I had to pull the needle tips because I'm finding with my hands, using a full-length needle tip hurts now. Like, I find that the short tips are much more ergonomic for me. So I have regular tips on this. And I think it's something about the way that it puts pressure on these fingers, which are already kind of struggling sometimes because of like neuropathy things. This is kind of a redo, because, well, the top is my hand spun, and I had knit the rest of the sweater with this, which is Kelborn Woolen Scout. And I was so disappointed by this yarn. It pilled worse than anything I've ever worked with. And so, and yes, it's 2-ply, but it was just so much pilling all the time. So I ended up getting just like a classic kind of like 4-ply worsted yarn. And it actually, I think, is kind of a better color match. This isn't going to focus worth anything. However, Like, it matches the blue of the handspun really, really well. And I'm making it a little bit longer than it was, and I'm doing a regular hem rather than a split hem, and I'm like a little worried I'm going to run out of yarn, but this is mostly to just make it more durable, and so I wear it more. This is just from Ready Set Raglan. Let's see, I'll just keep going down my desk. This is, oh, I'm in the middle of a row. Why would I have done that? I always try to finish a row before I leave things. But okay, I'll hold it like this. This is the Cottage cardigan by Jacqui Cieslak. I love their patterns. I do. I was very excited to test for them again because I really love their work. And they are also a designer I feel politically aligned with, which is nice. And I think really essential, actually. So this is going to be in my mind's eye. I will have this dress and this sweater for this wedding. The wedding's in June. It's on the solstice, but I imagine I'm going to do like the tank version of the dress, so I think it'll still be nice to have like a little layer, even if it's wool. It's Barocco Lannis Light in Phlox. And I've got the best buttons. There were actually even more in this bag than I realized when I bought. So here's some of them. But I got these super sweet, oh my god, focus, for the love of God. It won't. I just have to accept that it won't. But they're these lovely little daisy buttons, vintage buttons I got at a vintage shop. And I think they're going to look so lovely with this and pull in really nicely with the greens in that bug fabric. So that's my dream, is that, and it matches my sweater too like that. My ideal is that those things come together. And I've got a couple months in time for this wedding. Yeah. And I really liked, I love that it's like an applied button band. You do the like buttonholes and stuff like as you go along. It's just like one less thing that you have to do at the end. I'm in like the very ends of the raglan increases, and the only modifications I'm really doing is twisting my pearls on this band, and I am also knitting kind of halfway between sizes, because the fit that I want on it, it is meant to be pretty loose fitting and have a pretty deep armhole on it, like, and yeah, so I'm knitting between the first and second sizes to hopefully get about, I think it'll give me about like a 38 inch, and that's like a comfortable kind of like 5 or so inches of ease. I'm also hoping to make it, I'll have to kind of experiment with the length. I like the idea of having like a long line cardigan. I haven't had one of those in a really long time. However, we'll see if I have enough yarn. I'm almost done with my first skein. Okay, what else? There's so many. This is a secret one. This one is for Tommy. Babe, don't listen. Don't look. I am making the 5th Dovana shawl that I've made in my life. Because I think it's an awesome pattern. It's by Ysolda Teague. It's very curly right now. It has this great, please focus. Oh, it kind of is. It's kind of hard to see because it's a lighter yarn, but it's like twisted stitches, and then there's a cable that goes down the center. Please focus, please focus, please focus. Maybe a little bit. This is with Starbout Dye's Leo season, because my partner is a Leo. I am knitting this secretly for them, because I have a couple of these scarves myself, and they always want to wear them. So I'm like, let's get you one. In the pinks that you like. And it's like, awesome. So that's happening. There's a really pretty lace edging that goes around, and I pretty much just have to do that. I've been debating whether or not I want to try and get more repeats done so it's a bit bigger, but I'm worried about running out of yarn. And I have to like consult my list. I talked about everything. There's one more, and this one is really dragging for me. I think just because it's sleeves and it's on double pointeds. And now I have a concern that I actually don't have enough yarn. Because one sleeve is essentially, oh, there's a mask in here. Essentially finished. Okay, this is Kureno by Eri Shimizu, whose work I really love. Giant like rib cable body, and then there's like a rib cable sleeve. And one thing that's cool about this, well, one, I think it's neat that the like neck opening is kind of huge. But no, on the bottom, so you do this rib, and then it's an I-cord bind off, but you actually go up this little split, and it just makes that look, I don't know, I really love this detail. I love how like round, and I don't know. You do the same thing on the sleeves too. There's actually a split in the cuff, which makes it easy to roll them too, which I am looking forward to. However, I joined the last skein that I have pretty much at the start of this sleeve, and I weighed how much I have left pretty much at the end of this sleeve, and it's less than half. And I'm really scared that I don't have enough. So I haven't finished this sleeve yet, and I procrastinated starting the second one because I'm just worried I'm going to run out of yarn. I do have a swatch I can unravel, but I bought this yarn long enough ago. It's like, I think it's a brown sheep wool. I truly was just like, I'm just looking for a 3-ply in this very specific color I have in my mind, which was this like brick red. This is the only yarn I could find that was like affordable and worked for that. Also, I seem to have misplaced all my cable needles, and as you can see, this has a lot of cables, which means I've been just kind of making up new ways to hold stitches so I can do those cables, because they are, the cable involves 9 stitches, so you do need some sort of cable needle. I think that's it. I think that's all the whips. Oh my gosh, so much stuff. I mean, it's been a year, right? I've got some things that are like on deck that I'm excited about. I have a little pile of swatches in front of me. I got this really aggressively green, mint green yarn. Everything's so washed out. Can I get anywhere near? This is the swatch. It's just like the most cold, aggressively mint green, and it's so soft. It's a 3-ply. Planning on making a little Chaco vest. It was also on huge clearance, so I got enough for a vest for like $20 or something, which was pretty great. It's an aggressive color, but I also realized that it is literally the same exact kind of green as my keyboard. That's the thing I got into in the last year. I mean, into in the sense that I like made one mechanical keyboard and then was like, I'm happy with this. It's not showing up well at all, but this is because there's a little screen here and I don't like the light, and this key cap is not wide enough so you can see the screw here. But I got an Alice style for ergonomics. I really wanted to experiment with getting a split style keyboard, but I also don't want to learn how to solder, and so it's kind of hard to find split keyboards, which are, if you don't know what they are, they're really cool. Like, it's literally split, like the keyboard is in 2 pieces such that your hands, you can be angled at a way rather than being like this, which is not, it like pinches your shoulders. You can be at like a much more natural angle. But the Alice kind of mimics that with the split. And if you have seen ergonomic keyboards, that's kind of what they do. They tend to have that split. But yes, managed to, I like got really, really into it, and then the kind of like guilt of all the plastic involved with the hobby kind of caught up to me. I like made one keyboard, and now I'm like, I don't think I'm gonna make another one because I like can't. I can't fathom involving that much plastic, and things have been going pretty well with my hands. But yeah, I have this lovely aggro mint. And so the thing with the Chaco vest, I really like that it's like a collared vest, and there's like one little button, and I really want to, I have these little wooden star buttons. I thought they were black, but they're just natural wood, but I think I'm going to paint them, and I'll have these like little, these very like high contrast little star buttons. I think it's going to be really cute. This is a swatch just with some kind of like random single skeins I got kicking around. I want to do just like a very simple striped V-neck vest. And then we picked as our Rhinebeck pattern another Lydia Morrow pattern, the Very Varied Vest. And so I've been trying to sleuth out what I want to do for that. I think I might actually make two of them because I have this handspun that is like exactly the right amount of yardage for one, so long as I use this for like the ribbing and the edges and stuff. This is just Knit Picks palette. They're so pretty together though. This I've had for over 10 years. So, and it's been knit up into things before, and I just need to use it up. So I'm thinking of making literally just like a plain stockinette vest out of this. And I want to make like a freakish one. And I've been trying to decide like, what do I mean by that? What do I mean by freakish? I think I still want to do more handspun. I got this big bag of BFL at Rhinebeck. I'm sorry for the plastic sound. I don't know how annoying that is. But it has like, it's all of these very small kind of chunks. These were like these weird grab bag things, but like they're kind of chunks of different colors that are all just thrown in with each other. There's like some reds in here. It's just like a bunch of these. It smells very, you can tell that this was, it has like a sour smell to it. Like it smells like either vinegar or like citric acid. And because it's just been living in plastic, that smell has stayed with it. Kind of interesting. But yeah, there's like, oh god, the sound, so sorry. But there's like all of these different colors. And I think that there is a way in which it could make just like a really funky, stripey yarn. It's 8 ounces of BFL. I think that's plenty to generate a vest for someone my size. And then I've been trying to decide, like, do I want to do duplicate stitch? Do I want to do intarsia? I'm leaning towards duplicate stitch and doing words. I want to ensure that I make something that is weird enough that I'm, like, into that. I want it to be freakish. I also don't want to make it so strange that I, like, don't feel comfortable wearing it in, like, varied settings. Like, I would want to be able to, like, wear it to work, maybe? Or, like, you know, I want it to be something that's not, like, such a novelty that I never touch it again. So there's that. This yarn I want to make into a Pisu top. It's got, this yarn I actually got, like, I should have been charged way more for it. Only realized, like, after I'd left the store that I paid, like, half of what it was supposed to be. But it is superwash, but it's got some cashmere and stuff in it. Also, like, I've been feeling yellow a bit more. Like this golden kind of honey yellow. So that is something I'm interested in doing. I have like a couple other ideas kind of kicking in the background, but as you can see, I have a lot of works in progress right now. And that's just like mostly the knitting stuff. I have the sewing project, but there's other stuff. There's like a chair that I bought where like the seat was all messed up and I was gonna like re-rush the chair. Am I ever gonna do that? We'll have to see. There's like a lot of things I have to mend or like alter in different ways. Half-finished sewing projects where I'm like, will I ever put a waistband on that? Who knows? Yeah, just like a lot of stuff. Oh, one other thing that I have sitting here with me is I did start doing a Palestinian flag tapestry weaving. As you can see, I just have to finish the white and then do the black stripe. I've never actually done tapestry. I was like winging it with this in terms of attaching the yarns, and I did the triangle first. I figured that would be easiest. I've just, kind of been inventing how I'm keeping it all together. I have no idea how it's going to behave once I take it off the loom. But I started working on this when I felt that I was needing something that would be like a grounding project. I think part of what has like happened where I felt like not as enthused by my crafts, I think that I'm happy for craft to be a space of refuge for me. I do not want it to be an escape. Like, I don't want to... I want to be supported. I don't want to look away. And so working on this, which was something that was like craft and also explicitly Palestinian, felt really important. And it was something that I could go and sit and work on anytime I was feeling overwhelmed, or a time where I wanted to be crafting but also be like holding Palestinians in my mind and in my heart, and just kind of like, it was that kind of project, and is it hasn't received as much attention recently as I've been doing some deadline test knitting and stuff, and I think in part it's because I didn't enjoy that knit so much, the Armour top. I kind of joined the Jacqui Cieslak, the Griddy test, in part because I just, like, I don't know, wanted to do a test knit that I knew would feel good because their stuff is always so put together. But I think I'm really swearing off test knits. I think for me it is just... it's not worth it. It's not like worth the pressure that I put on myself to, like... I think something also is just like the cost of bringing in like projects and like having to get yarn that like maybe I don't have already. Just trying to... there was someone in the queer knitting Discord I was talking about just like ideas around stash having and stash busting, and also like not being sure what to do with, for example, like Juniper Moon yarn that I have, and like other people who have shown their asses in terms of Zionism. And they said, like the most sustainable thing is to use the things that you already have. And I've been thinking about that a lot, and kind of holding on to that. The single ply like fingering I use for the Armour top is from Madeline Tosh. And it was like, you know what? I would rather use this because I like the color and because I already have it than like buy yarn for this test knit. And I had already bought yarn and I took it back because I was just like, this does feel more sustainable. Like, yeah, Madeline Tosh sucks. However, it was like what I already had, and so I used it, and like I think it's a really beautiful color, and I'm trying to not like tear myself up about it. Yeah, so one thing I've been trying to figure out, and I know that there are people who have been doing some amazing like raffles and different projects and things, is like just like further ways to be like mobilizing or using my craft to support people in need, to raise money, to just like use it for good. And yeah, if anyone's interested in collaborating on projects around that kind of thing. Also, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this once it's finished. If I will just like hang it in my home or use it as like a patch. I'll have to kind of see how it behaves once it's off the loom and like blocked. Oops, getting caught on me. I don't think that it's like well done enough, or like I don't think that like using it to raise money, I don't think people will be interested in it, but maybe I'm wrong. And I guess, yeah, along those lines, one other big thing that I've been doing in the last number of months is doing more stuff around herbalism. I've been calling myself kind of like a baby herbalist because I don't know, I haven't gone like through like an herbalist program. Most of my I'm mostly self-taught and like I've attended like one-off workshops and classes and things. I did do a course on like grief and nervous system support. But yeah, I've been making tinctures. I have like these grief care packages that I've been doing that was like originally for specifically like Palestinian, Congolese, and Sudanese people, and then I've kind of like expanded it more. And so I've been doing that and really enjoying that as like a form of mutual aid. And Big Cartel raised their website prices, so I'm actually like in a spot where I'm about to like list some more tinctures and things that I have made, but I also have to kind of figure out how to downsize my listings. But yeah, I'm excited. I have a couple essences that I've made. I've really been enjoying essence making, even though like I don't know, I think that the fact that it's like energetic medicine isn't always like appeal. Not everyone's super into that, I think. Or like not everyone is necessarily like comfortable engaging with things on that level. I have heard like multiple I don't know, people speak to kind of the way that like the left is not always interested in conversations around like spirituality or engaging with spirituality. And I think that like energy medicine kind of also might fall into that. But anyway, I'm like sitting here looking at one of the tinctures that I have, which is like my favorite one because it has lavender and chamomile in it, and those flavors come across really beautifully. It's like a little like sleep and calm blend. And so yeah, I've been trying to like build out these packages with like grief medicine, and then I've also there's one that I made that has like a deep relationship with my Saturn return, and there's one that's like started off as a blend for some friends, and has like adaptogens, and it's just like meant to be like a nervous system support to just kind of like, yeah, I called it forehead kiss, because that's kind of like what I hope it feels like. But so like that's something that I've also been doing, and I'm trying to find ways to pull it all together. I bought a bunch of mugwort bought like a pound of mugwort for one of the blends that I wanted to make, and I really like the idea of making little like dream pillows. Mugwort, it has an association with dreaming, and particularly lucid dreaming. Or like I worked at this summer camp where one of the counselors used to tell the kids that you put it under your pillow to have prophetic dreams. But yeah, very strongly associated with the world of dreaming, and so I really like the idea of having almost like a sachet, but bigger, I guess, of, yeah, these little dream pillows. And my idea is that they would also be, like I would quilt, that they would be like quilted pillows with some of this mugwort in there. And I really want to do that. I've become very interested in quilting, but I've yet to like kind of properly dive into it. But I have some old, just like waste fabric and like old sheets and pillowcases that I'm dyeing just to do like a very straightforward patchwork quilt, just like squares, as kind of an inauguration into quilting. And so I'm excited about that. I'm very nervous about quilt binding, but we'll get there when we get there. And yeah, and I guess like one other thing that I have done a little bit, I think I'm averaging like a post every 2 months, but I have started blogging. I have like a little WordPress site, and that has been nice to write a little bit of poetry, write on like a much more like long form and personal level about some things. It's funny because originally I started it so that I would have kind of a place where I could just be like posting a lot more regularly and posting photos. It was funny, I actually noticed when I was like visiting my last video that I had talked about things, it feeling like social media for me is a lot more curatorial now, and like, I don't know, feeling like I can only post something if it like fits within certain like boundaries, or if it works within like a certain aesthetic. And that being so different from the way I used to interact, where like I used to just like post huge albums of pictures on Facebook all the time, and I like really missed that. And I had been kind of hoping the WordPress would be a space where I could just be like putting photos and like talking in longer form about photos. I used to have like a really big interest in photography, and I'm trying to maybe return to that. When I go to this wedding, I will be at my parents' place where my film cameras are somewhere in a box. And I really am interested in like returning to film. But instead I have put these kind of like heavy, I don't know, these just kind of like emotional pieces up on the blog. And so sometimes now I'm like, well, I can't just like go and post some like random pictures that like disrupts the kind of tone that I've set. And I'm like, dude, it's literally your blog. Like, you can put whatever you want there. And so maybe I'll do that soon. And I'm also hoping that it might be a place, I don't really use Ravelry the way that I used to, where I would put project notes and pictures in kind of a much more thoroughly documented way. And like when I was working on the Koyamae, I was like, okay, this is a great candidate for me to kind of write about in detail in this space. I just haven't done it. But maybe what I'll do is, like, that'll be where my very, very best notes go or something. Because I do really like writing in detail about that, and I came up kind of, like, into the knitting space and into, like, when I was in high school, I was very obsessed with, like, reading knitting blogs, and I really feel that I'm, like, just young enough to have really missed out on, like, the like, blogosphere era. And I didn't really get to participate. I've been reading, taking quite a break from it, but I've been reading This Long Thread, which is like an anthology. And so many of these makers are talking about, like, the Flickr community and talking about, like, oh, I really followed this person in their kind of, like, early days of blog writing. And I feel like there was such a... that people will talk about, like, the crafting community or whatever. And, like, I do believe that it exists. Like, I have a community through the queer knitting Discord and stuff. But there just seems to be a way in which, like, there was a kind of community that doesn't exist in the same way now, because, like, everyone's a content creator now, and, like, there's just this, like, I don't know. It wasn't entrepreneurial in the same way then, even though some people did use it as, like, a springboard for their careers, designing or whatever. And I'm like, man, I miss that, even though I didn't really get to be, like, fully part of it. But I've been reading a lot more, and I also noticed, Bea and Natasha, you talked about your reading. I am also reading Hijab Butch Blues right now. Also, I didn't, Natasha is Soft Adornments and Bea is Maker Bee, if you want to go and watch their lovely work. And I'm really loving Hijab Butch Blues. I've been working in a library, which means that I am taking a lot more library materials out. Oh yeah, that was something. Oh, hey. This is the How to Sew a Patchwork Quilt. This is the pattern I'm going to use. I have this giant book from the, like, art book collection, The Quilts of Gee's Bend, which has been, like, amazing to look through. Both to, like, read a lot of the historical context of Gee's Bend, but also to look at the, like, just, like, incredible quilts that these women have. Let's get the glare off that. Like, come on. And, like, especially because a lot of these quilts were done with, like, scrap materials or old work clothes. Like, whoa, glare. Okay, there we go. Come on. They're so beautiful. I wonder if I can find they're called housetop quilts, because they look like, if you were looking down, that's a log cabin, right? Kind of. They look like if you were, like, looking down at a rooftop from above. Oh, this is a big book. Can I find this quickly enough? Maybe. I also really like, I really love the way that a log cabin looks. Oh wow, these are not what I was looking for, but, like, look at all of these. Oh, the glare, my god. There we go. So beautiful. Yeah. I guess I can't find the housetops one right now. Oh, the triangles ones. Anyway, been taking out a lot of books, but, like, okay, last one I'll show, I think. Like, look at that. They're incredible. They're really, really special. So that's been very inspiring for quilting. But I have been reading more graphic novels, which I don't know if it's just the ones that I pick, but I cry when I read graphic novels. I don't know if it's just that the visuals are there, or, like, you can see the progress of, like, someone's eyes filling up with tears, or, like, I don't know what it is, but graphic novels really mess me up. I read Himawari House most recently, which I loved. I thought it was really beautiful. I love that So it takes place in Japan, where someone who was born in Japan but mostly grew up in the US is like returning to Japan to like reconnect with their culture, and they're also living with someone from Singapore and someone from Korea. And so the accent is like brought through in how English is written, and then anytime they're speaking Japanese or Korean, both languages are listed, which I think is really, really cool. I really liked that, both as a way to show like the way that they were switching between languages, and also for me as someone who knows like a little bit of Japanese, to even just kind of follow along and see if I could pick apart the sentences and understand, like looking at them side by side, like the different sentence structure pieces, or like even to just see like how much kana do I remember. I really liked that. I also read, I'm pretty sure it's called Ride or Die, which is it's kind of like slice of life, about like the friendship of these like four black women, in New York City. That one was really sweet. The illustrations in that were like each woman is kind of associated with a different color, and so that comes through in like how their different chapters are colored, and that was really great. I'm trying to remember what else I have. I have Genderqueer, but I haven't actually read it yet. But that one's gonna mess me up, I'm sure. I've also been reading some like, I read a book called Cobalt Red, which is about blood mineral mining in Congo. Super informative, but incredibly devastating to read. I found that I was reading kind of like lighter fiction works, alternating with that, just for like a little bit of a, I'm very, very glad I read the book, but it is an incredibly like heartbreaking read. And there were times where I was really annoyed with the author, even though there were sometimes he would just say things that made me really angry. Loving Hijab Butch Blues. This long thread I've been taking a break from. Am I reading anything else right now? I have a big stack. I really want to get into Ginseng Diggers, which is about ginseng in Appalachia. There's some bell hooks that's like on my list. The problem is I get so many things because so much comes across the desk, so I just like end up taking a lot home. And then I mentioned that I've been playing some video games. I recently just replayed The Last Campfire, which is very sweet. I tend to play a lot of games about death and loss and emotional processing. So that is one of those kinds of games. But like in a very cute, and also it's like a puzzle game way. And what is that called? I also recently finished Minute of Islands, which is, I took so many screenshots of because it's like a hand-drawn illustration style game. It's just beautiful. It's like I guess like a post-apocalyptic kind of world. You play as this child who has this switch. It's called like the Omni Switch, and you're working through like, some of it's kind of like environmental puzzle solving, where like you need to get one item in order to give to this person in order to get to the next area, like that kind of thing, which I very much like. And you're trying to keep these air purifiers running because there are these spores, and it's like very much dealing with like some family stuff. It's very beautiful. I really enjoyed it. You have like these memory sequences. There are these like spore-induced hallucination sequences. Very like grim, very beautiful. Very much enjoyed that. Definitely cried. And then the other one that I played recently is called Mythic Ocean. And that one, you are like, you never get to see what you look like, but you're like a character who wakes up and has no memory. Classic. And basically, there are these different gods that you are meeting in this like liminal ocean realm. They don't know that they're gods, but they are. And through your interactions and building relationships and making decisions, you get to choose. You get to both shape kind of like the worldview of these characters potentially, and also like choose who gets to be the creator of the new world. So it's like this cycle where like a different, or I mean it could be the same person over and over, but there are like these cycles of like world creation and ending, and yeah, there's a free demo which actually got like made me decide to get the game, but it's very cute. It's very silly sometimes. There's like a breakdancing crab, and like some other really funny like underwater characters that like have nothing to do with the actual like end game, but you can just like talk to, and they're fun. And yeah, it's also a game that has like dozens and dozens of possible endings, and you can, even though you can have multiple saves, you like collect the epilogues, so you can just kind of like keep playing it and making different decisions or choosing a different person, and like collect the epilogues of like what happens with that. It was really cool. The controls are like a little weird because you can move through the water, but you can also like move up and down. So that took me a little bit of getting used to because I'm terrible with double joysticks. But anyway, kind of like a little tangent about other things that I've been doing. But I've really enjoyed all of those games and want to return to my little gaming researcher roots and start playing more indie games again. And so if people have recommendations about games similar to what I talked to, I love puzzles. I love a narrative story. If there is a timed aspect to a game, I get very stressed out by that. Like Ori and the Blind Forest, so beautiful. Really enjoy that. The timed like escape sections almost made me quit and never return. Very stressful to me. I don't like that. I generally don't like combat. Just because I'm very bad at it. I just don't enjoy that. I've been holding off like playing Hades because I don't think I'm gonna enjoy that. But yeah, beautiful art, puzzles, storytelling. If it's really emotional and it's about death, I usually am into it. Love a little creature. All of the above. So if you have recommendations, or if you want to play something together, let me know. But I think that's it. I think I'm going to wrap this up because it's an hour and a half, and that is, if you've made it this far, just bless you. Because I had a lot to catch up on, and yeah, there's something very satisfying actually about having piled up all of these things that I've made. I'm like, wow, okay, that's like a year of making. Like, that's cool. That's cool. And I have so many like plans to come, and I'm also gardening very lightly this year. Almost everything that I've seeded has come up. I'm waiting on some lavender and some tulsi. The lavender is the seeds were a couple years old. I don't know if they'll make it. And my ground cherries have not yet come up, but I think they need a higher soil temp. But I'm growing sesame, and those guys are super cute, and they're popping up. I'm growing some dye plants. I'm growing some sunflowers, some beans. Everyone's very cute right now. And I don't know how much you may or may not have been able to hear bird song in the background, but I opened my window just a little bit because I think it's just because we live right at the edge of the woods, but we get so many different birds, and that has been like keeping me going. And, oh yeah, we got a kitten. We got a kitten in January, and that rules. He's like 6 months old now. His name is Henry. He's a patient older brother. But I think I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much if you made it all the way through. And hopefully I'll see you again soon.